Hi, thank you for watching a new video blog today from Riga, Latvia. It may not be a surprise if you're from the West that you've seen many churches closing over the years. And it doesn't really matter what denomination, whether it's Protestant or Catholic, many churches are closing. And unfortunately, for example in the Netherlands, this goes faster than in other countries for many different reasons. But also in other countries this process is happening. And now they want you to believe, and I certainly do agree on a part of this, that it's all caused by people just leaving religion. That they no longer see themselves as religious. Now that is one explanation, and I agree, the amount of religiousness has dropped. But I think that a much bigger but unrecognized part of the reason why churches are closing is that we have very low birth rates. Because being unreligious was also a thing in the 1940s and 30s and 20s. And there was even a very fair part of the Dutch population, for example, that was not religious. They were, for example, socialistic. They distanced themselves from the church. So it was already there, but it took a flight after the war, from the 1960s. And now, of course, they say, okay, yeah, it has to do with these cultural revolutions in the 60s and 70s. Yes, I agree, but meanwhile, there were still many people that were attending church, and even up to date there's still people attending church. So it didn't like convert the whole country into being atheistic or having no religion. So that cannot be really 100% the explanation. Now what most people will not even consider as a reason is that the birth rates dropped dramatically from the 1960s. Of course this has to do with anti-conception and the legalization of abortion. But in the end, it means that the birth rates were dropping extremely fast. And now they are, I'm talking now for Netherlands, but this goes for basically all European countries and mostly the Western world, but now also parts of Latin America, Asia, soon also Africa will have this. But these dropping birth rates are the reason why churches cannot survive any longer. Because hear me out. Again, there are of course these revolutions, these cultural Marxistic revolutions, and that converted some people. But still, in the 60s and 70s, the majority of people were religious and were attending church very often. But the problem was that the same people were affected by these birth control policies, these new possibilities to, for example, abort a baby or to use anti-conception so that you can control the amount of children that you prefer yourself. And whether or not this is good, I'm leaving out the discussion for this video. But what I want to say is that is the reason why churches started to be in trouble. Because for a church to survive, it's, of course, just like anything in society, it's not only needing the existing church population, but they, of course, also need new population. And if there's like, say 20 families in a church, and normally they would have, every family would have like 10 children, for example in my grandmother's time, then there will be no problem. The church will be exploding. And what happened in the 20s and 30s, in The Hague, the city where I come from, they had to build new churches every year. Every small neighborhood had first one Catholic church, but then already they need to have a second one and a third one, only in one neighborhood. Now you're lucky if you have like 5 churches, Catholic churches in the whole city. Well, I guess it's about 7 or 8, but just take in mind that they could build so many churches because there were so many new children born and they needed more space. And now if you go to a Catholic or Protestant church, you can clearly see that the majority are old people. And it's not that young people are not interested in religion or don't want to be religious, because we were also in church. I'm still going to church. But it's more that because the previous generation decided to have fewer children, let's say the generation that was born in the 50s and 60s, that are now grandparents of many children, they would have maybe 2 children. So from my grandmother's time, where there will be families of 8 and 10 children, in the 60s it was already dropped to 2 children. Now this means that a church cannot grow, it stabilizes. If then somebody is deciding to leave the church, then this means a big problem for the church. Because if you have two children from one family, 20 families in a church, and every family has only 2 children, and one decides to leave, then there's only one family left. So this means no growth. This means the church will become smaller. And if many people, for example, now in our generation, my generation, is that many people don't have children. It's not a shame. People feel that it's something noble, you know, you save the environment. But this means that also this way of thinking is also in practically all the churches. Only the very Orthodox churches, there the families are still larger. But also not 10 or 12, but mostly 4 or 5. And these churches, they can grow. They build new churches. In the Netherlands, this is the only church. It's like an Orthodox Reformed church. And they have many different denominations. The largest one is, I think, Gereformeerde Gemeente. And they have new churches, you know, every year. They build new churches. Why? Because their birth rate is still high enough to have the luxury to build new churches. They need them. Because so many new children are being born. I've been to such a church for a while myself, and I saw that there, for example, was a baptism. Well, if you were in a modern Protestant church, there was maybe 1 or 2 baptisms a year. And there they had like monthly baptisms, and not 1 or 2 children, but like there were directly 15 children that were being baptized, and next month another 15 children. And you had to really be early to have a seat there. So if you want to attend the church, you really needed to be early, because otherwise there were no seats. And they expanded already. I already have a new church from the denomination in that town. And they live in the same world. These people have access to internet, they have phones. They're not like Amish or something. They're quite modern, but they are focused, their church is focused on the family. And they're not demolishing churches, they're building churches. So it all comes down to how strong of a family life is the church promoting. And how much are people practicing family life? How much do people value large families? And that is the reason why many churches are disappearing. Because the focus shifts away from family life, becomes more like an individual thing. Also, being in church is like something individual. You're not really part of a group of larger families like what I had in when I was young. There were all these big families and they were supporting each other. Yeah, if you don't have this, of course, churches will die out. And it has to do, again, with the birth rates that are too low to even maintain a church, let alone to grow. And what eventually, of course, will happen is that they have to close the church because they don't have enough members anymore. You can see this also in the United States. I've seen it. Churches that were being abandoned and then turned into housing or something. But this wasn't happening in the past. You could have like every year a new church and it will be filled with people. Now the last thing I want to say is that people say, oh okay, yeah, but people just lose their religion. It's not, science is now so commonly accepted, etc., blah blah blah. And that's not true. People are not really science believers. They don't believe in evolution, they don't believe that life is meaningless, that it's just all an accident, etc. No. Religiousness is inheritable. And maybe, again, if you have a family of 10 children, maybe 2 or 3 will not have inherited this religious and spiritual drive. So also in the past there were children in the family that were less interested in religion, maybe left the church for socialism, but there were 7 left that will be very strong in their religion and they will pass it on. Now, and this religious inheritance, I believe that it's being passed on from generation to generation, and it's not a problem if people are less religious than the other, because some are so focused on religion they want to become a priest, and others just want to practice their religion. So it's totally fine. But if you just have 2 children, now the chance that one of them has this strong spiritual inheritance is much lower. So it can happen that you have 2 children that are both 100% not interested in religion. Nowadays it's very easy to leave religion at all. So that is also the problem with low birth rates. That the inheritable factor of religiousness will not be passed on, and the chances increase that you have, when you have a child, most people that are still in church maybe have 1 or 2 children. So the chance that one of them has this religiousness inherited is much smaller. And I have seen it also in my church that families had 2 children and now already when they were teenagers they just were not interested in anything of that and they abandoned it. Or families with 3 children where only 1 is still attending church. Same upbringing, same schools, same kind of friends, same church. So you can see that's inheritable. If you have fewer children, then the chances are also very low that a few of them will be more religious than the other and will build the religion. Mostly when somebody's very religious, they want to have a larger family. So churches are closing everywhere in the West and soon also in other countries because birth rates are declining. And if you want to have a church to survive, the church to believe, the birth rate really needs to increase. So that was for today. From Riga, Latvia, I said thank you for watching and see you next time.